What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Real Talk NFT, where we talk all things Web3. Super excited to have on today Kevin Conabree, who is the global head of growth for Bitcrunch and UnleashNFTs. So welcome to the show, Kevin.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So for the first time listeners don't know a little bit about you, can you give us a little bit about your background, a little bit about your bio?
Yeah, sure. So personally, I've been structuring and scaling early stage companies for over 15 years. I have been all through public and private companies. Bitcrunch was actually the eighth startup that I'm involved in. Prior to that, I actually took a CEO position at a small kind of flailing startup, and we grew it about 11x in 3 years. And then went on into the VC side, did some investments with a couple other guys in the group. And then I got into Web3 actually per chance, just because a friend of mine had invested early stage with Bitcrunch. And he said, with your expertise and with the fact that you love kind of cutting out a lot of the fat with respect to your career path and then what you've done like in early stage companies, I think it'd be really great to come in and actually kind of maybe provide more growth kind of like services and be part of that project. And so when I took a look at Bitcrunch, it was really great to see that there's a company that first of all wants to actually make money in Web3, and also secondly is really about kind of transparency and trust in the space. And I think that it's the Wild West right now. I'd say that a lot of Web3 is kind of a bit amateur hour in a sense where like everyone has a cool idea and a cool project, but they're kind of creating a lot of opportunities for early stage companies in Web3 and other collectors and investors and everything to make the best with the data that's available to actually kind of create a better future for Web3 in respect to just the trust and transparency section. Like it's like a part of Web3 itself. So yeah, so I joined about 9 months ago, and as the global head of growth, and so I take care of our go-to-market strategy, our partnerships and sales. Ideally, in future when we start really ramping up on our revenue, I'll be working closer with the CEO Vijay to start getting more customers on board. We do have quite a few, and then I also work with the community and marketing teams too, so we can spread the word about the great things we're doing.
That's awesome. There's definitely a lot of scattered data out there. You guys are, gathering it all and helping us make sense of it. With everything that you've seen, been in the industry for, in the emerging industry at that, is there any NFT collections that caught your eye? Are you a collector yourself, or is it's just intriguing technology that you see will be disrupting a lot of things?
Yeah, so I've been involved in a few mints here and there, and so I guess I'm a bit of an evangelist on the principle of an industry as opposed to just one specific thing. So I would say that, and I I say this all the time. Some of my colleagues and friends are kind of sick of me getting blue in the face saying this, but I have one particular project that I really like, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that I like where the industry is going. I like the use case and the utility of a lot of blockchain, Web3, decentralization, NFTs, and the tokenization aspect of what NFTs are. And so me specifically, I don't actually have one, art collection or NFT specific collection that I love, but what I love is there's some great examples of tokenization and NFT usage in today's era that I think are going to become far more exponential as time goes on. And so there's a company out of the States called Akawe, and they're an indigenous-led organization that actually is using NFTs and tokenization to tokenize indigenous land rights. And so it's not a collection per se, and it's not, an art collection or any kind of AI generated images or anything. But what it is a really great kind of view into the future as to the utility of NFTs and how we can kind of make the use of blockchain technology, Web3 and NFT technology to create a better future for really industries and that need to be disrupted. And then, other cultural and political norms that also, need a lot of help with respect to general boundaries. So that's one of my favorite things so far in the NFT space. Yeah.
Great. Absolutely. Real world use case, something that I'm more gravitating towards now. Before I jumped in head first, just documenting the space. And it's a tough thing to do, is try to document everything. And I got in on the collector's end, which most people got started with. And now I love physically backed NFTs personally. And I'm looking forward to those integrations. One of the ones I'm having the most fun with, believe it or not, is the Starbucks Odyssey journeys. So they have an NFT system for their loyalty program. And it's been a lot of fun. I've been buying coffee for my wife, and it's seamless. It's through the app. I get these NFTs, and they're worth, believe it or not, like 10, 20x on a secondary market, which I never would have thought anyone would covet Starbucks NFTs. But just seeing the real world use case of actual utility, meaning that, hey, I'm buying coffee anyways. I'm not going off left field here and buying artwork, something that I've never done. So it's interesting to see that finally in 2023, like 2 or 3 years later after the boom, that big brands are finally starting to implement this as part of the strategy. Most big companies have a Web3 division, so you're definitely ahead of the curve there. So you're seeing a lot more data than we have, obviously. Is there any big trends or meta that you see from everything that you've taken a peek behind the curtains of?
Yeah, I'd say that we're lucky enough to be able to have kind of like, and we're not using it for bad, we're using it for good. So we're not taking all this data and saying where we can kind of like invest early in certain things. But what I would say is, as the industry progresses, you have, again, this kind of like first phase of like wild, wild west of how much money can I make in a short amount of time? I don't care who I screw. I don't care about the artists and the creators and the project and the essence behind what's actually happening. And a lot of that has kind of come through in what I would call kind of like a phase one of the marketplace era for NFTs. And I mean, look, I'm not discounting the projects, but what the unfortunate thing is we have to look at the root cause of all this stuff, which is like kind of like making a quick buck, and then not going into the actual reason why NFTs are existing in the first place. And so NFTs started, I guess, in this kind of artistic realm. But what I would say is what we're seeing is because we have to start cutting through so much, BS on inflated valuations and fraud and all this stuff, because it's kind of an instant hot commodity. There's still going to be this kind of chasm and this gap to cross in the future around, when you get to more real world utility on NFTs and tokenization of digital assets in the real world, there's so much more at stake. And so I'd say that, it's unfortunate, but we're seeing a lot of wash trading, which is me selling to you, you selling back to me for a higher price, and then back again. And then finally, when a third person buys, they see, the price is going up quite a lot higher. They go, oh, it's a great investment. And this happens on a daily basis, right? So it's not the most friendly, I'd say, space to be in, with so many things that are rampant in this particular case. But what I would say is that as we're able to provide more of these tools to allow this transparency and this kind of truth, North Star of what an NFT is actually worth, or how much has been frauded or wash traded, and how floor price versus true price are very not very inextricably linked to each other. It's kind of disappointing as kind of a first level, like a high level view. But then when you dig down deeper into it and realize the power that you can kind of give projects and marketplaces and platforms and other like protocols to be able to provide this data, I think it's going to get a lot better in the future, because there's a new marketplace that's popping up every 2 weeks. Don't get me wrong, like OpenSea is great, sure, X2Y2 is great. I mean, I already know, and I'm not going to mention it here because I don't want to bash anyone, but I know the stats of wash trading on every single marketplace, and I know the stats of fraud on every single marketplace. And the short term thinking is like, okay, we're going to make quick money off of like a percentage of the resale of every single NFT, and that's our quick money, sure. But when the stakes get higher, people are like investing in fractional property and real estate in real life,
right,
outside of crypto, and we're using NFTs as that positioning. What are marketplaces really going to do when there's so much more at stake? Because when customers wise up, when the truth and transparency aspect is not apparent in a marketplace or a lending protocol or whatever it is, to the point where there's so much more at stake outside of, let's call it, digital art, then the long-term game has been lost by that marketplace, because you're not going to keep any customers. You're not going to keep your community. You're not going to keep, anyone, solid with you when, like, I wouldn't go on Craigslist and consistently buy cars that I know are stolen. Like, it's just, it's not, it's not, so it's a weird comparison to make, but it's actually quite a true one, where you have to figure out, whether you want to make short-term money or you want to actually create long-term value. So,
No, right. No, absolutely. No, that's a great point, because I'm actually in a market for a car myself, and a lot of cars on Craigslist, to your point, some people buy them from Florida where they got flooded and they're trying to sell a lemon on there. And 100%. Hopefully blockchain solves some of these issues where there's sort of a tracking back to the origin of where the car came from and the maintenance done on it. So yeah, I'm surprised to hear, all these platforms haven't done what you guys are doing yet, which is have an indicator of sorts, like, hey, there's a lot of wash trading for this particular collection. Yeah. Maybe not fall into this hurdle. What else don't we know? Like, I know that forgery you mentioned in one of your blogs was a big thing. What else can you guys help with us with as investors, collectors, or just regular people trying to dip our toes into Web3?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say that anyone that wants to get into NFTs for the intrinsic principle of loving digital art, or like tokenized projects, or ways to own a fractional piece of an investment they can't afford in whole, or so they can afford it in part, I think they kind of got dealt a bad hand because of all these different players that are kind of bad in the industry. They want to make that kind of short-term, quick cash. And so what I would say is there's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of wash trading. And there's a lot of just screwy behavior that it kind of like, I would say that profit margin and just general interest in what motivates a project or a platform or a marketplace or whatever it is not necessarily aligned with either early stage or even like, more seasoned investors like yourself in the NFT space that want to understand, how to properly support the market and the industry. And so, it's one of the reasons I think why we came up with a lot of these tools. So we have 3 separate tools that we work with. We examine over 60 data points. We work across 4 different chains. We cover about 95% of all NFTs. Over, I think, 30 million NFTs, 25,000 plus collections. And so we're able to at least give the insights. I'd say the intrinsic kind of internal battle we have with the industry, which is kind of one of our, I would say, Bitcrunch's Achilles heel, is the fact that the market wants what we have, but a lot of the marketplaces and platforms don't, because of the short-term thinking. And so guys that want to go into invest in NFTs, and guys that want to go into supporting a certain project on a creative level, and they can, buy something financially, not just necessarily to flip it, they're kind of getting screwed over, because I would say that, this kind of short-term thinking has kind of created it hard, first of all, for us to sell candidly, like a lot of our APIs and dashboards to marketplaces who are going, why would I want to even know the truth about how much crap is happening in my marketplace? And then, the other guys on the actual customers are going, dear God, please just like give me some sort of sign as to whether or not I'm buying something that's complete crap, or it's been inflated 7x. Right. And, by the time that comes back down to real market value, I've already lost my shirt. And so, we're trying to overcome that. And so we initially had this kind of business to business plan, and there's actually, I'd say, my ignorance from a go-to-market perspective, where I was like, we're going to go and sell all these analytics to all these different, companies. And so we were just looking in the wrong places, because if we shift the needle, 10 degrees to the left or the right, we actually find a lot of companies that do need us and for the betterment of their business as well as their customers. And so lending protocols have consistently been over collateralizing their assets that are being staked, for loans, because they don't know the real price of NFT. So if something's like 5 ETH, they're lending out 5 ETH to someone to hold their NFT as a collateral as a lending protocol, when the actual NFT itself is worth 1.2 ETH. So they're like 3.5xing on the lend. Right. And at a certain point, it's like if that person just loses all that money for whatever reason, they don't give a crap because they'll just go and just like, yeah, keep the NFT.
Right.
Or so there's like this constant write off of like, and then we have this other company that we actually just got off of that just really sparked my imagination this past couple of weeks, and they're a leading, I can't tell you the name, but they're a leading crypto insurance firm that are working on major policies and bridging traditional insurance and crypto insurance if a wallet's been hacked or assets have been stolen, and they don't know right away how to actually create a policy with proper backing on that, or understand what the metrics are of potential theft and risk of what what they're going to be backing it from an insurance policy perspective for the actual value of what an NFT or digital assets are worth in the wallet. And so they're also looking towards to us to start integrating these APIs, and not just for their own personal kind of internal perspective to make these internal kind of policy decisions in the company, but also to actually integrate the API and provide it real time for their customers to say, okay, if you want an insurance policy, here's how much you can get, because Bitcrunch has powered this engine for us to go out and say, your NFT is worth this based on our off-chain data and our on-chain data. And so off-chain meaning social media hype, Google searches, the amount of Twitter posts about it, the amount of reactions to Twitter posts about it, et cetera, and then the actual on-chain kind of like historical volume, whether or not it's been wash traded, et cetera, and come up with a final price. And so, there are certain, now on the B2B side, it is ramping up quite a lot on our demand for our products, but it's unfortunately not in the original way we had thought, where marketplaces are going to love this analytics tool to properly, help their customers, because they're making short-term cash now off of the inflated valuations.
Wow, maybe a good pivot, because if you could get some equitable interest in everyone's insurance policy, that would be amazing. You said so much there that I'm sure flew by a lot of average listeners' head, including my own. I had to stop and probably take some notes there. But I, for one, would absolutely love an insurance policy for my NFT collection, because prior to collecting NFTs, I never had a giant collection that was worth, upwards of, a lot of money. So having that is great for, as, if I go to bed, of course, with all these scams going on, like Kevin Rose getting 40 NFTs hacked for $2 million, I'm sure insurance policy, he'll be so excited to have that amongst many other people. And it's so dynamic, and it leads me to my next question, and we'll just take one bite at a time here. But how do we assess the value? How do you guys assess the valuations? Because it's seemingly tied to the crypto and financial markets, although it shouldn't be. It's its own art, its own collectible, which leads us to think, of course, all the speculators. And right now, there's absolutely no real, true collectors. How do we untether ourselves from crypto? That's just never going to happen.
What I would say is, I think from a certain perspective, there's a way in which, how do I say this? We provide certain tools that are on chain and off chain, and I think that there's no safe space. But the thing is that when everyone's coming in on the hype, when everyone's coming in on and whatever it is, Logan Paul on his NFT collection or whatever, right. It's God forbid, Andrew Tate does a fucking NFT collection. Excuse my language or whatever. I just, and all these guys just buy into it. It's like there's a hype there, and there's no real research has been done. And so when I was working in the VC side of things after I was a CEO of a tech company, we were actually going to launch one of Canada's first tokenized VC funds, and we ended up not being able to do it, just obviously because of sheer regulation from the OSC and the SEC, and crypto's in this weird kind of gray zone where it's like you can go out and just invest in an NFT because whatever, Steph Curry or whatever it is, FTX, whatever, has this kind of chilled some stuff out, and so there's this balance between decentralization and just general regulation, and I don't think that they go hand in hand. I don't think if you're for one, you're for the other. You're not for the other. But what I would say is, you got to do your research, because there's a reason why a lot of these regulations in the SEC and the OSC in North America exist. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a centralized, controlled, set of investments. But I think what we're trying to do now is create like a third party, one step removed, where we have no real vested interest in what things are worth, or how much money we can make off of it, or whether or not we're going to profit. It's just we want to provide that data, because if there's this big gap between SEC regulations, OSC regulations, anti-money laundering policies, et cetera, and this entire decentralized network that's so anti the former, we want to create a platform and an environment where people can at least use this to make their own decisions, because there's a reason why both of those things exist: decentralization and regulation. And this but at the same time, there has to be a middle ground. And so I think that for a lot of earlier stage investors in NFTs and digital assets and DeFi and whatever it is, other companies that are going to be popping up like ours, I want us to be able to provide that, because it's almost like we're self-regulating in a sense.
Yeah. No, I completely get it. I think for listeners out there, if we can close that gap as much as possible, and I think of this in terms of crypto, where you're trying to swap coins, the slippage, what's the percentage? Is it a chasm of 50%, or is it like 5%, right? If we can close that down as close as possible, we'll kind of bite the bullet, split the difference there and just, move on. So my next question is, what's that name of the NFT loan company? I would love to loan them NFTs for worth 1 ETH and then lend me 5 Ethereum, because that's mind-boggling.
Honestly, just Google one and you'll probably be able to unless there are customers. So
I wouldn't say that's shocking, but I would have thought that, with some data and analytics out there, that, that big a discrepancy wouldn't be there. If this question, falls, outside of your scope, please let me know. What's your thoughts on NFT AMMs, automatic market makers? Because I'm hearing rumblings about them, right? Like SudoSwap, Elixir, a little bit different from data. It's kind of more more driven metric by the community and what's active right now in the market. What's your thought? Any thoughts about that?
So I'm not going to touch too much, because I only know enough to get myself in trouble.
Okay. Same here.
But what I would say is market makers in general are in the business of making money for themselves. And they represent, it's the biggest necessary evil on any kind of launch, on any kind of token, on any kind of market opening or listing, whether it's direct or not, or indirect, on any kind of DeFi platform or marketplace or whatever it is. And I just think that market making is never ever 100% in the interest of the collection owner, the people that are minting, people that are doing this for a certain reason, and they're there to provide volume. And so I think that from an NFT perspective, it's another level of complication in just the transparency on what an NFT is worth, what the real true demand is. Because here's an example: if I go and launch with a market maker, and we direct list on, I don't know, whatever, KuCoin. There's market makers that this is their job to pump the volume. It's their job to make sure there's volume for buying and selling, and there's pot of money to be able to make sure there's liquidity. And it's one of those things where when you have a token, it's the same thing with the stock market too. There's market makers for everything. And so I don't know if it fully goes against or with what we're trying to do, but what I would say is it adds another level of complication as to what the true transparency is on what a collection's worth, how many people are actually involved in supporting it, how much money you can make if you're really trying to flip it for, let's call it the good, not just a profit as a degen. And so, I'm not this big NFT evangelist where it's NFTs are God, and you should never make money because you have to support the project 100%. But what I would say is if you're getting in, especially as a newer person, these extra mechanisms are just adding more complication to to be able to provide support for a project which is the real reason why everyone's in crypto and Web3 really usually to begin with, apart from the whole profit side. So I'm not going to say they're either transparent or not transparent. I'm not going to say they're, bad or good. I think it's important to kind of create some volume and some hype around something so you can spread the word, but it never really stops there. So that's as much as I want to say on it. Market makers are, they're, again, they under the guise of promoting a project and making sure there's like a lot of, automation and hype around the highs and lows of the sale and resales of certain NFTs and projects and collections. Mm-hmm. It might be they want to support, but at the end of the day, market makers are there they transact to make money. And so intrinsically speaking, I don't know if that's the most positive thing for guys that just love art or love a project or love, sending. I'm talking to these guys right now that have this really cool project, for example, and they have all their NFTs on this crazy disc. It's made out of nickel. It's like, and they're actually sending it in collaboration with SpaceX to the moon. Oh, wow. Actually, yeah. Yeah. And so it's like, that's a cool thing. It's like, why do we need an automated market maker for that? Just love the project, just buy into it. And if you don't want to buy into it for risk of losing money, then don't invest in it. If that's your MO,
Yeah, you definitely uncovered a little bit for me. I didn't know the answer to that question. That's why I was trying to ask an expert. And to your point, there's people pushing volume. These are things that I don't know, like things like forgery, wash trading. That's another one. Automatic market makers got volume makers behind that. And people like myself coming in it's a new type of investment asset that, some maybe see as an asset, maybe not, but I see it as an asset where, we didn't have that traditionally before. I mean, right now it's just in the form of NFT, but I've been talking and interviewing companies that are turning your physical collections and turning those into NFTs where you can have, physical packed NFTs and potentially, I hate to use the word here, leverage because of the whole thing that happened with FTX. But these are just things that individuals like myself are coming on board, not necessarily, we want to leverage, but that's kind of the lingo in the industry. I came in personally through the love of basketball, NBA Top Shot, and it just opened up a can of worms. And I love it because of the community. I've connected with high school friends that I haven't talked to in 20 years because of NBA Top Shot. But through that door, through learning about NFTs, I'm not saying I'm forced to learn about this, but I do want to see it help myself, better in a intrinsic value, like you said, not only, as a collector, but maybe potentially as an investor. So that's kind of the hurdles that I'm seeing and I'm facing. So these things need a lot of education from companies like yourself. So
I agree with that because what I would say in that particular aspect is like, so, and again, some shameless self-promotion here because I'll move away from the B2B side. I think that if we're going to talk now, like subject-wise on this particular podcast about, whether it's earlier stage investors that want to come in and invest and understand the landscape, if it's guys that are hodling and just kind of more like senior people, we've actually come out with a B2C product that's still in beta. It's called UnleashNFTs.com and it's powered by Bitcrunch. Essentially, so we do on the B2B side, wash trading analysis. So you can understand any single NFT and any collection and how much it's been wash traded on a particular collection level or NFT level. You can see every single wallet that it's visited since minting, the price it was there when it got in there, the price when it left, how many times it's been sold back and forth between 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 wallets to actually take a look at wash trading patterns. Secondly, we have a whole blend of AI and machine learning that takes all this historical data of sales and past transaction history of NFTs and their collections, and it can actually give you an accurate price, the most accurate so far on a forensic level, with over 60 data points as to what an NFT is actually worth. And then also forgery detection. So there's a pixel been changed, or if there's one particular piece of background image that's been changed to a different hue of color or whatever it is, we automatically have our AI and ML models trained to detect that. So what we've done is taken this B2B side of all this really, really deep forensic data, and we've transferred it to kind of like, let's call it a light version. And so we're powering our new site for the B2Cs, the earlier stage investors that want to come in and take a look at like certain things. If they want to connect their wallet, they can connect their wallet and take a look at all the NFTs in their wallet and what the actual price is, whether or not the NFTs have been wash traded, understand if they want to do a search on a collection or an NFT before they're purchasing it, and understand if they want to purchase it even, and kind of create their own level of risk assessment with the data we're providing. And so we went from the B2B side, where this is very instrumental for a lot of projects, and again, marketplaces, lending protocols, etc. And we said, okay, let's do this for the B2C side. Let's do it for the small guys that really, really want this, because they're the ones that are either making their money for the right reasons or losing their money for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. And so, so again, anyone who's listening, you can go visit UnleashNFTs.com. And there's a reports section at the top right. You can go take a look at the wash trading volume, the general trading volume of the entire market. You can look at it on a collection level, on an NFT level. You might have to request from us directly to take a look at the individual wallet level on NFTs. And that's going to be available in the next couple of months. But essentially, we want to provide this as a full, transparent, almost like a coin market cap style website, where you can come in and say, okay, what's the state of the market in NFTs? How much has been wash traded for the past 7 days, 10 days, month, year to date, etc. And you can actually toggle all those things and do custom searches as well, and then connect your wallet. You can sign up with Google to get our updates and newsletters and some of our alerts and things that we're taking a look at. And I think it's one of the best and most comprehensive kind of tools on the market today for, like you said, and like you had mentioned prior, Joyce, is around guys that either want to get into it, they want to understand the state of the market before they just kind of jump in both feet and spend money on a $10,000 NFT that's only worth $28. So they can understand really what's going on prior to, and then after they do buy and acquire, they can connect their wallet and take a look at the general status of their wallet and where things are at in the market.
No, that would be super helpful, and I really hope, Kevin, that you guys take the lead here on this one, because there is absolutely no platform or dashboard out there that helps someone like myself analyze my portfolio. And as someone that is a big advocate of just personal finance in general, I'm constantly looking at personal capital, looking at my dashboard and making decisions on my portfolio. I suspect a lot of people in 2022 saw their whole portfolio crash and is like, hey, should I do something? Should I not do something? Bought a whole bunch of treasury bills. I bought a whole bunch of treasury bills just this last week. And I can't do that for my NFT portfolio because I don't have a centralized platform. I don't know the extrinsic value, of my portfolio, not with a certainty, unless I plug and play my Excel spreadsheet that I've created for myself. So really, someone's got to solve this problem. And I'm glad that, you guys have really, have a lot of data with AI and ML. That's, at the forefront of everything right now. That'd be super helpful.
Yeah, no, 1,000,000%. And our goal is to create that transparency. We're trying to make a better future for NFTs because, again, a lot of people are just thinking okay, whatever, it's a monkey picture. It's not. Because clearly it's not, because you're having people that are now tokenizing indigenous land rights, where they've been in battles with the government for hundreds of years over what they own and what they don't. And this is the reason I'm involved in this project to begin with, because that's really important to me. And it's important that we can provide, transparency in ways to combat kind of existing problems with regards to ownership, creation, rights, etc. And even fractional ownership for those that are trying to get into not even just the NFT kind of art game, but there's people that are now trying to save up for houses to invest in real estate. When the average price of a house is $700,000 in San Francisco, or if not more, the average price, my partner, she works in real estate in Toronto, and an hour outside of Toronto, a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom is going for 850,000 Canadian. And so it's how do we get to that point where you can create better generational wealth through and through in the future? And I think that, fractional ownership might be a way to do that within your means. And so again, it's not just, where we are now, it's where we're going to be. And if we can provide a lot of this transparency and the different infrastructure to create ways in which people can understand what they're investing in when it means more than simply digital art, that's where we want to go. Because Bitcrunch's ultimate vision is to be the Intel inside that powers every platform that requires, any kind of NFT or digital asset data, like, globally.
Absolutely. I believe that decentralizing or taking something that is out of reach for the average person, like real estate per se, and opening that opportunity up is something that I love to take a opportunity on, and a lot of listeners would also. So definitely on the same mission and vision as you, as where this technology is progressing and the opportunities you can provide. And, just it'll be interesting to see where we are a year from now, because it moves lightning speeds, right? So with that said, Kevin, I'm going to put all your links down below. Unleash, Bitcrunch. Would love to have you back, maybe a little bit down the line to see how everything's changed, because it's like dog years here, right? Like next week, something's completely like flipped over.
I fully agree. It's like, you close your eyes for 1 week and just like bananas. Like everything is like happening so fast. And I think that, again, like it gets scary. And I'll be honest, like when I first came into Web3, I'm just like, I had some cash to put in, boom, instantly lost 10 grand in like a month. And I'm like, maybe I should, this is not like, just stock investing that's 2 or 3%, 5%, whatever it is. Like you can have your ass handed to you in a very short amount of time. And unfortunately, it's the guys that know the rules that can bend those rules. And if you're not on the rule bending side of the economy and in some aspects of digital assets and Web3, you're not good. So it's like, again, we wanted to create that B2C platform to make sure that everyone can have a level playing field on what the stats are and create, visualizations. And it's actually really nice. It's a really, really nice, like just the people that did the UX did an amazing job on helping you understand visually what's happening in the industry. And then eventually, I'd say probably in end of Q2, we're gonna end up launching our paid subscription on the B2C product on UnleashNFTs.com. And that'll give you really, really in-depth, like really deep data on the forensic level that mixes it with AI and certain things to tell you, okay, like, this has been transacted back and forth between two wallets 76 times in the past 8 weeks or whatever it is, so that the guys that are becoming more advanced in NFT investments and analysis on their own portfolio, again, we're not trying to regulate anything. We're not trying to, we're trying to keep this decentralized. As a matter of fact, we're even working on decentralizing our data and our responses on the different data sets and data points within the industry by not even actually owning the data ourselves and having different groups that are decentralizing this data themselves and providing the data in real time to us, because it's that important that we don't even touch it ourselves. And so that's like the next step. But, from a project level, I think that we're off to a really good start. And I think that eventually people, if they really want to, they can pay whatever it's going to be in the next 6 months, $20 a month or whatever to have a membership with us. And they can just get all these crazy insights from a certain level where, even if it is wash traded, even if it has been frauded once or twice, if that's your level of risk, fine. But you know what? At least you know.
Yeah.
So,
no.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know, man, plenty of people just like yourself came in here. That's what we want to avoid, is coming in here losing a ton. So follow Real Talk NFT and Bitcrunch at Unleash NFTs to really avoid that pitfall. Well, Kevin, 100%. I want to thank you. I want to thank you so much for hopping on today, and we'll have all your links for all the people listening. And I appreciate you so much. Yeah. I'd love to have you back on.
Yeah, man, that's great. I'd love to. Actually, what we'll do is we'll probably take some of those links too, if you don't mind. We'll put them out on our socials as well. And just, I'm happy to be here. Again, love talking NFTs, love spreading the word on how to make, a better future for NFTs. So glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome, Kevin. Thanks so much.